Very vocal campaigner on issues such as human trafficking and the preservation of biodiversity. She was spokesperson during the European referendum campaign and now sits on the shadow cabinet as the liaison for the Alliance of Liberals and Democrats, acronym ALDE party in Europe. Catherine is part of the Liberal Democrats campaign to safeguard to the Erasmus Plus program in the Brexit negotiations. In November 2016, she led a delegation of young people to the European Parliament to present their petition to save the UK's place in the Erasmus Plus exchange program to the Parliament's Committee on Culture and Education. Now, Catherine needs to leave immediately after her speech around 10:20 to get down to Westminster, which means, unfortunately, she'll be unable to take any questions. But without any further ado, therefore, given her schedule, I'd like to introduce to you Catherine Reeder, MEP, who will be speaking to the theme of Erasmus Plus and Brexit, losing our representation in Europe.
Well, many thanks, Professor, and thank you for your welcome, and good morning, everyone. I'm delighted to be speaking, slightly embarrassed that you've asked me to speak here this morning. I'm delighted because I know that the Erasmus programme is so important for your universities and the learners, and who are mainly young, who benefit so much from Erasmus. I'm slightly embarrassed because I'm not a university graduate. I had a rotten education and left school at 15. So despite the fact that I'm married a zoologist, I'm slightly in awe of all you clever people in here. But looking at the agenda for the day, there looks to be a fine debate ahead. And I do apologise, I can't stay long. You might have heard that we're having an election sometime soon. Yes, and so I have to go and join the planning team in Westminster, and then I'm off to Brussels to clear my desk so that we can really get campaigning in earnest. But I want to concentrate on three things on the time that I have with you. And that is, what is Erasmus? And of course there's Erasmus Plus and Erasmus. I'm going to use the phrase Erasmus, but I mean Erasmus Plus, it's easier to say. What is its programme and its benefits? How the finances work now and post-Brexit, if that happens. And some of the political actions we can do to protect our participation in all that Erasmus has to offer. So as we mark its 30th anniversary, there's no doubt that the Erasmus programme has been a huge success for the European Union, promoting education, training, volunteering, youth, sport and travel, but most importantly, travel. Since 1987, more than 200,000 UK students have studied or worked across Europe on exchange programmes, and Erasmus facilitated almost half of all the UK students' mobilities, which of course includes adults, apprentices, and so many people on their journeys of lifelong learning. We know that in today's globalised world, employers are looking for graduates that are comfortable in different settings and know how to relate to people from many different cultures and backgrounds, and including being able to speak different languages. Go International research, I'm sure you'll hear more about that today, shows that 5 years after graduation, the unemployment rates are almost 25% lower for Erasmus students. Erasmus not only benefits students directly involved in the programmes, but by enabling international students to study elsewhere. It promotes the cultural exchange amongst host students, the universities and their communities. And that's a great added benefit to the entire student population. And to quote an Erasmus student that I met in Brussels recently, she said, "This may not seem like such a big issue for London or Manchester or Birmingham, but for places like Swansea, it really helps improve diversity." And I think that sometimes is missed. For years we have known that the life chances of young people in Britain are dictated in large part by the economic circumstances of their parents. So the financial support for Erasmus is key to its success. Erasmus actively seeks to remove barriers that prevent students from disadvantaged backgrounds from studying, working and volunteering abroad. It makes international exchange accessible to all by providing grants to cover not just the tuition, but the travel and the living costs as well. And the European Commission currently runs Erasmus. It manages the budget and sets the priorities, the targets and the criteria. And the European Commission, of course, is overseen by the European Council and the European Parliament, where we currently have ministers, civil servants and MEPs partaking in that process of planning. Outside of the EU, of course, the UK would no longer have input into future direction and priorities for Erasmus programmes. Erasmus benefits from the economies of scale administered and planned centrally in Brussels. And it is delivered in the UK through the UK National Agency, which is a partnership between the British Council and Chorus UK. They receive allocated funds directly from the European Commission, and that planning coordinates universities and schemes for learning across over 30 countries, who all make contributions to enable them to get access for their students. In 2015, over 98 million was awarded to UK students for education, training and student mobility. If the hard Brexit route is taken, this funding will inevitably be cut following our departure from the EU. At present, the UK is a state that remains a member of the Union with all its rights and obligations, and this includes participation in the Erasmus programme. So now is the time to get out there and promote it. In the case of the Brexit negotiations, any agreement with the UK as a third country, as we call it, countries outside the EU, would need to be based on the balance of rights and obligations, safeguarding access to the Erasmus scheme for both the UK and EU students. It is in its recent motion on how it would be judging the negotiations, the European Parliament, which I'm part of, called for action to maintain the UK's involvement with the Erasmus programme, even as a third country. So you have friends in Brussels that are fighting too for Erasmus. But this will require the UK government to agree budgetary contributions, and so far this has been resisted in all areas. Very clear, the Erasmus programme is open to individuals and organisations outside the EU. You can still partake of that, although the eligibility for the Erasmus budget varies. It is based on country status, and to be eligible, countries are divided into two groups. The first are the programme countries. They are eligible for all Erasmus programmes. These are EU and non-EU countries that have signed commitments and a financing agreement, and that includes countries such as Norway, Switzerland and Iceland and Turkey. Secondly, partnership countries, who are only taking part in some actions, who are subject, and they are subject to specific conditions. These are places like the Western Balkans, South Mediterranean countries, and some Central Asian programs, for example. But as a general rule, participants in Erasmus projects must be in established partner programme countries. So for the UK to become a non-EU Erasmus programme country, it would still need a national agency and contribute financially to the programme. So it's not much red tape or contribution lost there if we are going to hang on to Erasmus. So it's really worrying that when the Prime Minister recently acknowledged we should, quote, we should make an appropriate contribution to the Erasmus programmes that, underline, we wish to continue with. Erasmus received no specific mention. So it's for this reason we must fight to ensure a clear commitment to protect that programme. And the general election is a real opportunity to do just that. So if you don't mind, I'm going to be a little bit political here. You didn't really escape that, did you? Clearly, as a Liberal Democrat, I see quitting the EU as a huge mistake. But even if we cannot stop Brexit altogether, abandoning the EU's single market and free movement of people will have huge consequences and will put the EU and the UK's joint learning opportunities at real risk, as well as research and all the rest that you all know about. With this in mind, I am delighted to say that the Liberal Democrats are not dropping the baton on this. We demand the government's unambiguous commitment to continue the Erasmus programme for student exchange. In November, the European Parliament, as you heard earlier, I received a petition of over 10,000 signatures presented by the young Liberal Democrats. This will go before the European Parliament's Committee on Petitions for discussion and review. And I should add that the European Parliament, in its motion, as I said before, has an unambiguous commitment to keeping Erasmus if we possibly can. I've also written to David Davis asking him to ensure Britain can continue to be part of the programme. I have received no reply. You might like to write to him and see what you get. The Young Liberals, Erasmus activists, have been writing letters to all the MPs across the UK to put pressure on the government for a clear commitment. And like I say, I would encourage you all in this election to make it an issue with your local candidates wherever you are. Get them to commit. It's a great opportunity to up this fight for Erasmus. The idea of an associate citizenship, an EU associate citizenship, that is championed by my Liberal colleague Guy Verhofstadt, who is also head of the European Parliament's negotiating team, is also part of the platform that the Young Liberals will be fighting on. Today's young people in the UK are the most diverse generation we have ever seen. Many hold complex, multi-layered identities and they regard themselves as Europeans. Brexit is therefore not only a threat to their future opportunities, but a threat to their broader identities. The vast majority of young people voted to remain in the EU, and we must send a strong positive signal that their wishes are being listened to. To conclude then, the UK government, whoever that will be after the 8th of June, must safeguard participation in Erasmus, the mobility programmes through Brexit negotiations. It is too important a right to lose now. The Liberal Democrats will fight to protect Erasmus, education and employment opportunities. So I hope you can join me, whatever party you support, in fighting to save this country not only from Brexit, or from a hard Brexit, with all the disastrous effects for young people, for learning, research and the economy, and for the greater Erasmus programme. But before I leave you today, I would like to share this very short video with you. These are the voices of tomorrow. These are the experiences of Erasmus programme students. And as Guy Verhofstadt said in the Parliament's debate on Brexit, we don't want the UK to leave the EU, but if it does, it may be that one day a young woman or a young man will lead the UK back into the UK and try this relationship again. These might just be some of those people.
I believe that Erasmus is such an amazing programme that gives people so many opportunities, whether it's professional, personal or educational.
I would highly recommend the Erasmus programme to anyone, and I honestly think it's tragic that there's the potential for the current generation and the future generations to be deprived of such a